We're not all that different. Like we had talked about the Nazi from World War II that they tried, and then the reporter said, that the alarming thing or the scary thing is this guy isn't that much different than the rest of us. It's just 1 degree off. And so you only know what you're being fed. And we're all being fed different things through different algorithms, with different media channel that we're watching, or mainstream media that we're watching, news that we're watching. I think, for me, what I hope people take out of this is that you're all fed a very particular narrative to tribalize the US. And they've done a very good job of that, whether it's social media, news stations, mainstream, whatever that is. And so I think that people that watch this, that pay attention, will start to realize that they're being fed tidbits of different information to trigger emotions and to hate another side of this country who may not think identical to you. But I think we all have a lot more in common than we realize. And I think this is a perfect way to kind of, in a bipartisan way, to dish out the information so that people understand what they're being fed is curated in a very particular manner. Hopefully people can see through some of this stuff and realize that we don't need to hate each other. We just need to talk to each other. And I think that's just something very important.
And now, an exclusive preview of Target Intelligence PSYOP, Chapter 1, The Zone.
In 1999, a book written by 2 Chinese military colonels was released in the United States. The book attempts to answer a question that China was openly contending with. How can they defeat an adversary that is technologically and militarily superior in a war, a country like the United States? The book's title, Unrestricted Warfare, reflects its central idea that when an enemy cannot be defeated by conventional military forces, warfare shifts to spreading social division and undermining trust in key institutions, essentially destroying the enemy from within. Here's what they write.
If one party is at war with another, and the other party does not realize it is at war, the party who knows it is at war almost always has the advantage and usually wins. And this is the strategy set forth in unrestricted warfare, waging a war on an adversary with methods so covert at first and seemingly so benign that the party being attacked does not realize it's being attacked.
In 1960, The Twilight Zone aired an episode in which the power and phone lines went out on a tree-lined suburban block called Maple Street. The neighbors gather outside to try to figure out what's going on, when a boy, obsessed with comic books, suggests his theory.
What do you mean, Tommy? What are you talking about?
They don't want us to leave. That's why they shut everything off.
What makes you say that? Where'd you get that idea?
Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard? It's always that way in every story I've ever read about a ship landing from outer space.
Not long after, one of the neighbors decides to walk a few blocks over to find out if the blackout is affecting them as well.
Well, he was just going over to the next block to see if the power was on.
As afternoon turns into night, the neighbors become increasingly suspicious of each other.
I know who the monster is!
Then, a figure is seen walking onto the street from the darkness. One of the neighbors, who has become increasingly paranoid, pulls out a
Shotgun? Would somebody think a thought around it? What good is a shotgun?
As the figure gets closer, the armed neighbor aims and pulls the trigger. As the group approaches the figure that had been shot, they realize that they've killed the neighbor who was returning from a few blocks over. Moments later, the lights in the house of the man who fired the gun start flickering.
It's Pete Van Horn.
Pete Van Horn. Well, he was just going over to the next block to see if the power was on.
Charlie, you killed him.
I didn't know who he was. I most certainly didn't know who he was. Were we trying to protect my home? And it was somebody we knew?
Soon, lights on the whole block begin flickering, as the neighbors descend into violence, throwing stones at one another.
No!
Look! Charlie? Charlie, the lights just went on in your house. Why did the lights go on in your house?
No! No, it's nothing of the sort! I didn't know the lights on, I swear I didn't! Somebody's pulling a gag or something!
Before eventually focusing their rage on the boy.
I know who the monster is! I know who it is that doesn't belong among us! I swear I know who it is!
All right, Charlie, let's hear it.
It's...
What are you waiting for?
Well, come on, Charlie, come on. Who is it, Charlie? Tell us.
It's a kid!
He was the one who knew. How did he know? How could he have known?
Make how did you know, Charlie?
What's the matter with you people now? Stop!
In the closing scene, two men stand outside of a spaceship, looking down on the people of Maple Street, which is now in complete chaos.
Throw them into darkness for a few hours and then sit back and watch the pattern.
And this pattern is always the same?
With few variations. They pick the most dangerous enemy they can find, and it's themselves. All we need do is sit back and watch.
Then I take it this place, this Maple Street, is not unique.
By no means. Their world is full of Maple Streets. And we'll go from one to the other and let them destroy themselves. One to the other. One to the other. One to the other.
The tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices, to be found only in the minds of men. For the record, prejudices can kill, and suspicion can destroy, and a thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat has a fallout all of its own, for the children and the children yet unborn. And the pity of it is that these things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone.